As corny as it sounds, anything is possible. I really, really, truly believe anything is possible. I grew up in a very small town. I had, a childhood that had quite a lot of turbulence. I didn't envision this for myself. But here I am doing this. So I just think that anything is possible. In this industry, one of the biggest things is don't be afraid of the time that'll take. Focus on your love and your craft of it and just really view it as a long-term game.
Hey there, it's Ginny.
And I'm Monica.
And this is Hitting Her Mark,
a podcast for women in the arts, actors, filmmakers, artists who are passionately chasing their creative dreams,
while juggling the beautiful chaos of caring for those they love.
We're here to share stories, insights, and inspiration, proving that you can hit your mark without compromising what matters most.
So if you're ready to make your creative dreams a reality, let's dive in. Welcome back to Hitting Her Mark. Today's guest is Dana Solomon, a multidisciplinary artist originally from Selkirk, Manitoba, and now based in Mississauga, Ontario. An Anishinaabe member of Saugeen First Nation and of Guyanese heritage, she began her artistic journey as a dancer at the Royal Winnipeg Ballet School before earning a BFA in dance from York University. Dana now works across acting and filmmaking with credits including Anne with an E, Heartland, Digstown, and her short film Nimi, which premiered at TIFF 2025 alongside her starring role in the feature film Bloodlines. Thanks for joining us, Dana. So Dana Solomon, thank you so much for joining us today on Hitting Her Mark. You are an actor, a dancer, a filmmaker. You are of Anishinaabe and Guyanese heritage. You're also an enrolled member of Saugeen Fort Alexander First Nations in Manitoba. You have some impressive acting credits on networks such as Netflix and CBC. But what I am most excited to talk about today are your double TIFF premieres. Okay, this past September 2025. You have a feature film, Bloodlines, for which you play the lead, and a short film, Nimi, where you were an actor, director, writer, and co-producer.
Yes.
So exciting, so impressive. What a year. Congratulations.
Yes. Thank you. It was a wild year. 2025 was a really great year in terms of, the projects getting into TIFF. But at the same time, it was also a slow year for me as an actor on other projects outside of my own, I found in my case.
Oh,
Yeah.
that's so interesting, right? Because the optics are like, oh my God, she's popping off. But then, and that's the funny thing about acting. This is the
Oh, yes.
industry. But before we get too far into it, I would love to, we always like to start from the very beginning when you were a little girl dancing away.
Sure. Yeah.
Tell us about that, your childhood
sure.
and how you got into this industry.
Yeah, well, see, I grew up in a very small town, Selkirk, Manitoba. At the time, I think its population was 11,000. And I really was drawn to dance. And at that time, I didn't know acting was a possibility for someone like me, growing up where I did. But my mom did enroll me in ballet classes at the Royal Winnipeg Ballet School. So I took ballet classes and I fell in love with that. And to be honest, it was very healing for me because, my childhood at times had some turbulence, yeah, and it was just like a really good outlet for me to express myself. But it wasn't until I came to Ontario in my late teens and then went to university, I went to York for dance, that I knew acting could be a possibility. It was in my last year, I took an intro to acting course, and the professor came up to me. He's like, Dana, you might be able to do this, for real, for real. And I'm like, really? Okay.
Oh, how encouraging.
Yeah. And then so I sat with it for a while and then started taking classes, getting an agent and moving agencies because that one wasn't working out, the whole shuffle thing, finding what works for you. And then it led me to acting eventually. Yeah.
Dana, I'm so curious. What was that
what was that transition like for you from moving it from dance into performance, like acting? Like, did you feel it was a natural transition? Did you feel like it was a leap? Because, dance is so in your body, full of expression. It can be seen as big, you're inhabiting a stage. What was it like to transition to sort of on camera work?
Um, Honestly, for me, it felt natural. It
Mhm.
felt like this is what I'm meant to do. And I think because as a child, I used to, just be a creative mind. I used to dance. I used to, write short stories. I used to run into my mirror and act out scenes. And I don't know, like it was just always something that I think I wanted to do, but I just didn't realize that it was something I could do until I was exposed to the opportunities later on in my adulthood, being an young adult. So it did feel natural. Yeah.
Oh, I was just gonna say we hear that a lot from I mean, in my experience, growing up, you never think acting is a viable career.
Right.
Right.
No, absolutely. You just don't think about it. And, being from a small town, you rarely hear of actors from your small town going on and doing it. Like, there's not much examples. And especially being the background that I am, an Indigenous, and my uh, father's Guyanese, representation. You don't see anyone like you on TV,
Mm.
you know? There's no one relatable, so you don't have those examples. Like, I mean, there were Indigenous actors and there are Indigenous actors. Representation's so important, and if you don't see a lot of it, you just don't think it's for you.
I was just gonna say, how was it going from a small town and then moving I assume 'cause so you went to Ontario to go to school? So it wasn't like your whole family went with you?
Well, I went to I moved from Manitoba to Ontario in my late teens and finished up high school, living with my
Okay.
father. My parents weren't together, and then I went to Toronto for school. And it was a culture shock. It's very different. It's fast paced. It's overwhelming. I felt at times definitely overwhelmed, but I made some really good friends in university that I connected with, and I think that really helped. And a lot of my siblings were already here in Ontario, just through family history, and they ended up this way in Ontario, and so I had people, but it was overwhelming. Even to this day, like I'm somebody who craves the quiet. I like camping.
Mm.
I like going out, and sometimes just getting away from the noise. It was definitely a transition, getting used to, like, the hustle bustle, fast pace. I felt dizzy getting on a subway. I'm like, "There's so many people, so much energy." So I'm
Oh
like,
gosh.
my head's spinning. Yeah.
Dana, how did that experience of, York University, even the ballet school, but like you said, coming to Ontario and then everything just seemed to be a faster pace. How did those training programs prepare you for the craziness of this industry? Like when you started to join the industry, did you feel prepared? Did you kind of learn by trial and error? The industry side can sometimes be challenging.
Definitely. I mean, I feel like dance really prepared me in a way that it's disciplined. You work really, really hard on your craft. Um, like you're studious, you study and you practice and you have like this good like routine. And I felt like when it came to acting, I was able to apply that, work really hard, work on my craft, audition, read scenes when I'm not auditioning, read plays, read books, talk to actors, like really prepare my craft. But I wasn't prepared for the stillness and, like, the stagnant periods of the industry and
Mm.
the business side.
Yeah.
And I wasn't prepared out how hard it would be to get my foot in the door, and booking those, first gigs that I booked. It took a really long time, and that was really hard to deal with, and I think that because of that, you know the long periods of no work, it really pushed me to create my own work because I realized that, like you want to work, you want to create stories, and sometimes you need to make them your own.
Mhm.
So, yeah,
Yeah,
for sure.
absolutely. When you were first breaking into the industry, I mean, with your background, but you have this, I mean, you're gorgeous. You have this,
Yeah.
what the industry might call ambiguous look
Absolutely.
about
Yeah.
you. Did you find that that helped you or hindered you in this industry?
Definitely hindered it initially. Um, Because one of my first agents, not my current agent, she's wonderful and lovely, but my one of my first former agents said to me, "Well, I can't put you out for Indigenous roles because people won't believe it." And to me, I was blown away by that because I'm like, but this is who I am. This is me. That's a big part of me. I think when they view Indigenous people, they're looking at certain tropes and like we're viewed as a part of history, um, the past, but not
Mhm.
current who we are today, living in this world. You know what I mean? And I think that was definitely a struggle. But my current agent was really great because she was like, I'm gonna submit you for Indigenous roles because that's who you are.
Yeah.
That's just who you are. That's a part of you, And in the beginning, it was that kind of struggle, knowing where I fit in. But then at the same time, that agent, I told her, I'm like, well, I want to go out for all of the roles, even if it's not Indigenous specific. Like, why can't this young nurse just be a person and happen to have an Indigenous background and a mixed background? Like, why does it have to be geared towards my background? Why can't I just be
Absolutely.
Yeah.
be the thing?
Right.
So,
Yeah. Yeah, and it's so
Yeah.
funny because I used to run into, not not that specific thing because it's very evident I am Asian, East Asian, but a lot of the times, especially years ago, they they wanted me to have, like, an accent. It was like I wasn't Chinese enough because I was too
Mm.
Canadian, too American appearing, and it's just that same thing, right? They wanted that trope, they wanted that
mhm,
stereotypical, East Asian person.
Yeah,
right.
well, this industry is, like, so eager to put people in boxes. It's like they need to know how to sell you somehow, and
Mhm,
I've had a similar experience too. I There was a point at where I had blonde hair, and my name was Monica Knox, which is my last name, my husband's last name, and then I remember being like, I wasn't being seen for Spanish roles, and I was like, "Well, I'm Spanish," there's
right.
Spanish people who have blonde hair, like, so
Yeah.
eventually I
It's a
had
hair
to
color.
it's, but, like, no, they can't imagine beyond that look. And then eventually I was like, "Well, I'm gonna add my name, Monica Rodriguez Knox, in so that people understood that I can be Spanish and also
Right.
I can play, just like you said, Dana, roles that are not Spanish, right?" Like, definitely a challenge that we face, in this industry. Dana, I wanna touch on some of your film and TV acting credits. You
Okay,
have
so
a
yeah.
number of notable television credits under your name, roles in Anne with an E, Heartland, Digstown, Teenagers, that's an early one, great. Looking back at your early screen roles, what were some of the biggest takeaways from those experiences? Like, how have they shaped your career and your approach to acting now?
Well, I do have to credit teenagers for like affirming that this is what I want to do forever. Because Teenagers was a web series. It was a passion project. Houston Bone um, created this series, and it was under the APTRA co-op agreement at the time. And we were just in it for the love of acting, for the love of this project. It was a great series. I got to meet incredible friends. And then it turned into this like YouTube sensation. And then, then it had a couple more seasons and same thing. We got together and we just did it for the love of it. And it was pretty edgy, the things that we would touch on, but real. And I just knew that it is possible, to create meaningful work and in this industry, you just have to have like the right people around you. So I feel like that was my biggest thing was like teenagers really affirmed so much for me as a young actor at that time. Um,
Mm.
I just started writing, and I've always had it's so funny how I started writing because I work, and I still do to this day, at an organization called Toronto Council Fire Native Cultural Center, and I work with urban Indigenous youth, families, youth programs and, helping families in our community. So that's what I do, and I still do to this day. It's very I don't think I'll ever stop doing that work. And I was with the kids. We were with in this program called Story Planet at the library, and there was a program where they gave you like these storyboards, and there's like all these squares, and they're like, okay, let's create a story, and you can write like, you know, they could draw a picture and caption each little picture, and I was like, oh, this is so good. I took a couple sheets, made photocopies, and then I started outlining a feature film script. So then
Oh,
I was like,
interesting.
okay, so this is what really sparked me because I was already thinking about creating something.
Oh, that's
And then
beautiful.
I was in that program with the kids. And then I thought, I really do need to create something myself. Um, and it was also creating something out of frustration with this industry is that sometimes there's so few projects, so few roles.
No.
And I just wanted to create more opportunities for myself, for other people. Um, I had a misconception when I first started this industry that once you book something, that it would
Mm.
snowball. Because you hear about that in the States.
Yeah.
Somebody books something, and then all of a sudden they get 10 offers, and they have
Right.
the next 5 years is lined up with projects.
Yeah, they
Right.
just take off.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But here you can do a big project and you still have to get in the ring and audition. So,
Mhm.
Yeah,
yeah.
absolutely. I feel like all of us need that one show at the very beginning that's just like, you know what? This or one project that's just like, you know what? You are meant to do this. You need
Mm.
that because you're going to get knocked down right after. And you need to go back to that one thing and be like, no, but when I was doing this, I know this is right.
Yeah.
It's like a little reminder, and it's this up and down. It's and with a big show, these long running shows, like Murdoch Mysteries and Heartland, sometimes it's so hard to come in as a day player or as, like a new guest star or something
Yeah.
because everything is established. Everybody knows everybody from,
Right.
crew to whatever. Everybody knows everybody. And sometimes even the background are the same background people that they've been using. So it seems like you're walking in to this intimate family, and sometimes it can just feel very off-putting if people aren't giving you that, welcoming vibe. Um, but yeah, how
Absolutely.
wonderful that it inspired, because a lot of people would just quit. A lot of people would just say,
Mhm.
"You know what? Maybe this isn't for me." But instead you use that to create your own work, and I think that's so inspiring.
Thank you. Thank you.
I want to get into a bit of the transition that you take into filmmaking, which is writing and directing. You've been an active writer and director, expanding your creative practice. Your earliest short film for which you wrote and directed was The Strength of My Spirit. Um, what was that experience like for you creating your own first project, and what propelled you? I mean, you kind of touched on it to decide to make your first film, but what was the experience like for you?
Yeah. Well, okay. So I have to backtrack a little bit because I was a part of the Imaginative Features Lab Institute where you create a short film. This was in 2021. You create not a short film. You create a feature-length film from concept to completion, your very first draft. So I was working on a script called Between the Lines, and I made my first official draft. But I realized you can't just go from not creating anything to wanting to shoot a feature and getting funding when I've never ever done anything before.
Yeah,
So I'm
the
like,
big lesson.
Yeah, yeah. So I'm like, okay, I need to take it back a little bit. Go back and you know, create some short films, get my feet in there, learn, how to direct, see if I even like directing, see if I even like this avenue. So I applied for, it's called the Connected North Youth Leadership Fund, and I applied for a small micro grant and I got the funding. And it was during the pandemic still, and I'm like, okay, I need an actor. Okay, my husband. So let's use him. He's not really an actor, but he's in the industry. He does some commercial work, and he does a lot of like print uh, stuff. So I'm like, okay, let's work together. So it was kind of experimental. I wrote this script based on a little bit of his story and what he shared with me with his permission, and I created this. It was almost like a spoken word poem about a little bit about inspired by his history and his relationship with his father. And then, yeah, we got some footage. We put it together. We shot it over just, I think it was like a day or two. And then it turned out really, really well. So I submitted to the Imaginative Film Festival, and then it got in, and LA Skins Fest, and it got in. And then now it's used in schools because it's about a man, embracing his relationship with his hair as well, and what that means to Indigenous people. That connection with Mother Earth, the mind, body, spirit when it's braided, and what that means. And
Mm.
that's why it's called The Strengthen My Spirit. And it did well. It's used in schools. I actually had a friend who teaches in Manitoba reach out to me. She said, "Yeah, I used your film in our classroom."
Mhm.
Um, and that's great because that's what it was intended for. It was an educational piece. And so that film came to be, and then I started, working on my feature film scripts, chipping away a bit, and then I realized I still need experience. I need experience working with more actors, like a true narrative scripted piece, because I was kind of experimental, and that's how Nime came to be, and that means dance in Anishinaabe-Moan. And as a dancer, I'm like, well, this is something I know. It's birthed out of my experiences, but it's a fictional story. And, I had to work with agents and after contracts, which I don't find fun at all.
Right.
So I
Me
think
neither.
that I don't think that I want to sole produce. Like I did have a co-producer
Yeah,
that came on afterwards and stuff that helped me, thank
right.
goodness. But like
You
the
almost
nitty
prefer the operational stuff to someone else, maybe more of a creative producer kind of thing. Yeah.
100%.
Yeah.
I mean, I'll do it if I
Yeah.
have to. I learned how to do it, but it's just
Yeah.
not something that I had a permanent eye twitch for 2 months after shooting Nime. Like, it was like,
Oh
I'm
my
stressed
god.
out. I'm
Yeah.
stressed.
How was it working with your partner, like directing your partner? Because I mean, some of us, we can't even do a self tape with our partner. You made a film.
Honestly, I'm really, really lucky. He was really good about it, and he has a natural presence for camera, and on it, we work well together. And we actually met through our line of work, working in community. So we have experience working together. We don't work together anymore. He's moved on to a different organization working with Indigenous youth and communities, but um, we've had experience working together. So I feel like it
Mm.
was it was seamless. Like, I'm really, really lucky. And he's a great self-tape reader, and he gives me
Okay.
fabulous notes. So I don't know, like, I feel like I really
You're
got lucky
lucky.
in this department.
So he doesn't
Amazing,
do
amazing.
voices when he's reading? He doesn't put on a voice?
He
Just
has
checking.
before, and then I'm like
Cut the voice. Cut the
So
voice.
it
Just
takes
normal voice.
direction.
Normal
Yeah.
voice is fine. Um, what as someone who's also in the midst of doing her first short film, and I'm terrified, and I'm sure there's many listeners right now who are, getting into making their own films because that's the way this industry is going. You got to make your own work. What would you say were the biggest challenges in getting your projects made? And what advice would you give to filmmakers? Like if there's one thing that you're like, just focus on this or, keep this in mind. What advice would you have?
Oh, I just think my biggest advice is to remain open on the day that you're shooting, because scenes that I was married to, that I thought I was, we end up cutting. And then it made the
Mm.
story a little bit more cohesive. Like, don't sacrifice story for the sake of time. But if you're working with certain budgets, certain restraint, certain time frame, and, say you only have 2 days, you can't afford a third day, just remain open and be open to letting certain things go, maybe if it's not working, or um, if it's not moving your story along, try to be open to some change. I think that would be one thing. For me, it was like funding, Nime, like, I'll be totally transparent. Like, that budget was not a big budget. It was done under the ACTRA ultra low agreement. I pulled in a ton of favors. So we did it for a very low budget thing. That's why I had to wear so many hats, because I choreographed, and I acted in it, and I directed, and I did the costumes on it, which I have so much appreciation for the costumes department, because figuring out, like, what day, what scene, okay, continuity, it all while
Oh,
trying to do the
wow.
thing is really extremely difficult. But thankfully, we did have hair and makeup, and we had a great cinematographer, Dimitri Lopatin. Um, and then I had my co-producer, who also was the creator of Teenagers, and
Oh,
he came
nice.
on kind of as my
Okay.
mentor. So we have a really good working relationship, and I'm really thankful for his guidance, to bring him on set and just be there to support me in that process.
And how did you get it into TIFF? I mean, that's a big deal.
Yeah. Okay, so I saw we were in post, and I worked with a beautiful composer, Abigail Neal, and Spencer, and working in post, I'm like, okay, this is all coming together. I saw the rough cuts. I'm like, oh, this is really, it turned out to be something really special. So we worked really hard to make the tip deadline, submitted. We just took a big swing. We just took a chance, because I'm like, well, who cares? They say no, they say no. We submit to other festivals, and at least we made this thing, that we're really, really proud of. Um, but then I found out gone to TIFF, which was so
Oh,
exciting, because I found out that Bloodlines had gotten into TIFF first.
Okay. Oh, wow.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah,
Exciting.
and then maybe 5 days later, I learned that um, Nemec got into TIFF. So I was like blown away. I was like already on a high from this exciting news. Bloodlines in TIFF, and then Nemec got into TIFF. I was like, holy shit. Okay, okay, I'm doing TIFF this year, and I'm really doing TIFF. Yeah,
I feel like it would change your perspective too, as in terms of like what's possible. You got into one of the biggest like film festivals, and you were not only one project, two projects in the same year. And even though you said like before it was like a slow year, that must have been a pretty huge milestone for you. Did it give you confidence moving forward in your filmmaking?
absolutely. It gave me a lot of confidence. And one of the things is, as actors, those slow periods, we question, like, can I sustain myself? Is this
Uh,
worth it? Like, you sometimes you have those internal thoughts coming at you, but then it's moments like TIFF, for example, like, working so hard and having your projects premiere there, to know that, more to come. It is possible.
mm,
So it was definitely affirming. And even though it was a slow year, I had a really great 2025. And I think
yeah.
in those down moments when we're not working as an actor, we just have to find our joy, whether it be still creating our own projects or just focusing on family and life and,
Mm,
finding joy in between. But if this is a marathon, not a sprint, that's for sure. It's a long-term
yeah,
game. Yeah.
absolutely. And so while we're on the subject, could you tell us a little bit about bloodlines?
Yeah. Oh, okay. Okay. So bloodlines, how I came to it, because I had my son. I have a 3-year-old boy now. Um, my son was a year and a half at the time, and I took some time out from acting. And postpartum rocked me.
Oh,
Not yeah, it rocked me. Not so much in terms of postpartum depression, but I was a really anxious new mom, and I had postpartum anxiety a bit. And I wrote to my agent saying, I'm not ready to audition anytime soon. So I did. I took, it was about, he was like a year and a half before I started auditioning again. And Bloodlines came to my agent, and the agent asked, like, do you want to go for this? I'm like, yes, let me go. Let me dip my feet in once again.
mm, right, right.
Let me dip the toes in, thinking, like, you never know. It's a lead in a feature.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, dip your toe in a lead. But I
Yeah.
wanted to say that, a year and a half off after having a baby, especially your first baby. I feel like your first baby, you're always like, "Oh, I don't know what's happening. How do
Mhm.
I sustain this life?" Um, I think that that's a totally normal amount of time, and
Yeah.
I'm happy to hear that you did that for yourself.
Thank you. Yeah, I think it was really important for, just my mental health and just feeling like myself again and enjoying time with my baby and my husband and as a family and just learning to be a mom. It's the sweetest thing in the world, but also the hardest thing in the world,
Mm,
you
mhm,
know?
yes.
Yes, I love being an actor, but I knew that I always wanted to be an actor, so who cares? I'm taking a year and a half off, like,
Yeah,
to
right.
do me and my family and focus on that. So, thank you. Yeah,
Yeah.
it was no question in my mind. I'm like, "This is what I kinda have to do for me."
And what a
Um,
beautiful way to come back to a year, because so often we're like, "Oh my god, if I take a year off or a year and a half off, I'm gonna have to start all over again," and we get all
Yeah.
these thoughts in our mind, but you came back and you landed a lead in a feature
Mm.
film.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, and so I auditioned, I sent in my self-tape, but I really knew that, this project was something special. I connected with the material, in a very personal way. And they're like, "Okay, come back for the callback," which was also a chemistry read. I was like, "Okay, go back to the chemistry read," but I also felt so nervous that I felt like I blew it in that chemistry read. And then I was invited
Mm,
back for a second chemistry read with other actors. And then I left that chemistry read feeling like I did what I could do. I left it all in that room. So if it doesn't go my way, I'm gonna be at peace with it because I really studied, I really tried, I really gave it my best effort, and then I waited 2 painful long weeks, and then finally I heard that
ugh.
I booked it. I booked it, and I was over the moon. I was so excited and also nervous because that means relocating my family to North Bay. I was there for a
Okay.
number of weeks. We shot for 4 weeks, but I was there, almost for 2 months. So, yeah,
Wow.
yeah,
Wow.
yeah,
That's
And
yeah.
huge.
and
And
your partner was supportive
Yes,
of relocating.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Thankfully, he's really supportive, and he came out to North Bay and brought my son. Then my sister came and helped because my husband still had to work. So, like, it took a lot of support to make it
yeah.
happen. But it's such an important story. Like, Bloodlines is a beautiful story rooted in Métis culture. It's ultimately about love, forgiveness, and community, and what it means to be a part of community. Lots of language, Métis the Métis language is Michif, and, a lot of my dialogue is in the Michif language that I had to learn. But Gail Maurice, the director and writer and producer, She is a fluent Michif speaker, so I had really great teachers. There's these characters in the film called the Granny Gang, and they're like the anti-figures in the film, and they're from her Métis village of Beauval, and they are fluent speakers, and they were beautiful, beautiful guides, and they would tell me, like, give me the thumbs up if I'm doing it right, and they weren't afraid to tell me if, say it like this, or, it was just such a really great exchange all around. I'm really, really grateful for it, and it actually got into the Santa Barbara Film Festival in, Santa Barbara.
Right.
So I'm I'm really excited about it. Coming up in February, so I'll be out there.
Oh, that's amazing, Dana. It sounds like it was such a, like, culturally also fulfilling experience for you.
Mhm.
I am curious, how do you prepare for roles? Like, what do you have a process? Is there a way that you get into the work? Like, what works for you, as you're preparing, to start a new project and a new demanding role, especially you have to learn a different language, all of this.
Yeah. I think it changes a little each time, but, I guess being a dancer, there's one thing that I do think about when I go into the work. I think of the physicality of the character. Like, I read the script over and over, and I think about what would their mannerisms and physicality be? And then I just start, studying, their motivation. What are their thoughts? What's happening? Like all the stuff. But with the language, I really focused on that because I knew that, I'd been asked to represent Métis culture. That's not my nation. I'm an Anishinaabe, it's a nation that
Mm.
is not my own. So I want to do it right and honestly and with integrity, and I want to do it justice. So the language was a really important piece to me. And then I also have to learn to speak the language, but also the feelings behind what I'm saying. So I'm connecting with it when I'm saying it on screen. So I really had to focus on, knowing the language in and out, and that's the only way for me personally is, like, to know the language in and out without a question, so I'm not thinking about it, so I know what all of the meaning is behind it when I go to say it. So that's one thing that I focused on with Bloodlines, and being a mom, is learning that script in and out before I get to set, all of it,
Wow.
because when I'm done shooting, I'm still a mom, I have to still come home and be a mom.
Yeah.
So, I
Yeah,
thought, like, I don't want
that's right.
to be shooting 14 hours a day, come back and study. Sure, I review notes when he goes to bed and all that stuff, but I don't want to be cramming, not being present as well. So, it was hard. It was really hard, but really rewarding. And, mothers, I just learned that we just have such a capacity, and you don't really know your capacity can expand so much. Like, I didn't know I was capable of all these things.
I know
Yeah.
that makes it so much more rewarding too, eh? It's like you realize you're like, "You know what? I can do 14 hours on set and then come home and whip up a plate of dinner for my kid and tuck them in and put them to bed and then review my
Read them
lines
a
for the night,"
story,
like,
yeah.
and it's such a challenge that,
Sleep for 4
as
hours and then get up and do it again. Yeah.
Yep.
It's just it demands so much from you, and it's from different, it's like the parent brain and the actor brain, and then, you did projects where you were writing, directing, and performing in, and, like, my god, but isn't that so empowering too? Like, you leave it like you said, like, you realize how much capacity you have,
Mhm.
as an artist, as a woman, like, it's really it's kinda cool, actually, you know? I'm curious if you have any inspirational words for artists out there or advice that maybe you've received from a mentor that you'd like to share.
As corny as it sounds, anything is possible. I really, really, truly believe anything is possible. Like, I grew up in a very small town. I had, a childhood that had quite a lot of turbulence. I didn't envision this for myself. But here I am doing this. So I just think that anything is possible. And in this industry, one of the biggest things is don't be afraid of the time that'll take. Focus on your love and your craft of it, and just really view it as a long term game. And, women in the industry, great things happen when we let women tell stories. I think I want the world to know that, when women are in positions of like director, producer, writer, amazing, amazing shit happens. And it's always an amazing set, too. It is
Yeah.
always, honestly, those sets are the sets to be on.
Mhm.
Like they've been
Yeah.
amazing sets. And also too, it's just one of those things is that yeah, just view it as a marathon, and there's no time limit on your dreams. I think we're always kind of, society tells us that you got to make it the time you're this age, and you're not really sexy after a certain age, and all these
Mhm.
stupid bullshit things that the world tries to tell women. But there's no time limit on your dreams. If it's something that you love, don't worry about. You only get better with time.
And we also hear, like, after you have a kid, like, oh, things, you're not going to be able to do that. Better get
Yeah.
things done before that happens because your life changes. And it does change, but it doesn't mean you have to stop doing what you
Mhm.
love.
No, exactly. And honestly, when you let life happen, whether it's like a child or just growing and experiencing life, I think we all become a lot more interesting. I really do think that we just all become more interesting as time goes on. Life happens, whatever happens in your life, and all those experiences add so much depth to your work. And also not being afraid to take a break, go on that vacation. Don't be afraid
Mhm.
of an audition coming through. Just go on that vacation, experience things. I think it adds so much depth.
Would you say, Dana, that's how you manage to
Yeah.
stay grounded in this industry with all the ups and downs? Like, do you have strategies for that? Like, how do you not let the noise get to you and just focus on the things that matter?
Being intentional, but also I work in community, and I have a passion outside of these passions. And I
Mhm.
think having multiple passions that drive you, whether it's acting related or not, like my community work is not acting related or industry related, but it's something that I'm passionate about. I'm passionate about, our youth, inspiring youth, helping our families in whatever capacity that may be. And doing that work has also inspired my filmmaking, because any work that I do, I really want it to be not necessarily educational, but I want it to be inspiring. I want it being in community has informed my work as an actor and filmmaker. The youth have inspired me so much. They've taught me so much. Yeah, I think it's just having something else outside of this has really
Right.
helped me stay grounded. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like
Mhm.
perspective. That's great.
Mhm.
When you hear the phrase hitting her mark, what does that mean for you? How do you define success in your life, professionally, personally, or however you perceive that statement? What comes up for you?
Hitting her mark. When I hear that, I just think of women running shit, and just like owning it. And
Yes.
yeah, that's what I feel like. It's like women stepping into their power and just owning it and running shit. That's what I think.
I love it. Running
That's
shit.
amazing.
Running
Yes.
shit.
Yes,
Yeah.
women running shit.
Yeah.
Yes.
Thank you, Dana, for joining us. Yes.
Thank you
Yeah,
so much
thank
for
you so
having
much.
me.
Hi, everyone. Thanks for tuning in to Hitting Her Mark. If you enjoyed today's episode, be sure to follow, rate, and review wherever you get your podcasts. For more content and updates, follow us on Instagram at Hitting Her Mark.